With Season 2 of Invincible having finally finished up and having seen Agent Spider, I had a thought. Could Invincible survive the events of Marvel's Spider-Man, or also known as Spider-Man PS4? And that's exactly what I plan on covering in this theory analysis video. But before we begin, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and if you enjoy, comment your thoughts down below. So before we begin the video, let's set up the scenario. I'll be using Mark from the ending of Invincible Season 2 of the show. I will not be using anything from the comics, and Mark will not have any of his help. He'll only have MJ as far as Peter did, and Aunt May will be replaced with Debbie, and that pretty much covers everything. So let's go ahead and dive into our first one. First up on the chopping block is Wilson Fisk, also known as Kingpin, and this is the easiest for Mark to handle, as he just fly up to Fisk, destroying all the helicopters on his way, and it only take one punch to put Fisk into a coma, ending the first fight without even breaking a sweat from Mark. Next up is Shocker, and I'm just gonna do both, the chase and the bank fight all at once, and this is incredibly easy for Mark when it comes to catching Shocker, as Mark can fly around the world in seconds, including reaching space in no time at all. So Shocker isn't even getting down the block unless Mark is texting his mom to check on Oliver. Now, when it comes to the fight, Mark is still not breaking a sweat here, and Shocker is getting knocked out before he can even blink, thanks to Mark not playing around, ending this fight with ease. Mr. Negative is the third one up on the list, and this is finally where things could potentially get interesting in round 1, as now Mark has to deal with a hostage situation while MJ disarms the Devil's Breath before fighting Lee. And as for taking out the demons, Mark can easily remove them one by one with his speed, clearing them out in about a minute if he's taking his time. Then he'd save the hostages before finally fighting against Lee. Now, for the boss fight on this subway, it really isn't gonna take that long, but I do think that Lee's powers could hurt Mark and maybe mess with him mentally. But I don't see him ever beating Mark, since Invincible has gone blow for blow against other Viltrumites, has fought against his father who easily killed 2 Viltrumites, one of which was about to kill Mark, and Mark was able to beat the other villains that gave the Guardians trouble, and is stated to be the strongest hero on his Earth at the end of Season 2, even above the Immortal. So there's nothing Lee can do that could put Mark down. So Invincible easily clears this and is really just steamrolling Spidey's villains. But one thing I do want to cover is how would Mark handle the hallucinations, and honestly, at the end of Season 2, Mark's not in the best headspace, and if he gets pushed, well, he's just going to look for something to hit, and that's really not a way that Lee wants to go down, unless he wants to end up like Angstrom Levy. Now, let's take a break for a minute to cover a situation that I know is going to be brought up in the comments, and that's the Sinister Six at the raft cutscene fight. And, well, let's be honest here. Mark could very easily take out every single one of them here and now, and would be completely fine. But I do think that Otto would choose not to show himself after seeing what would be happening to the Sinister Six. And so we'll keep his fight separate, but we're going to go ahead and begin the breakdown of the other 5. So let's go ahead with Electro, as he wouldn't be able to keep up with Mark's speed, and his powers aren't going to be anywhere near as strong as Anissa's strikes against Mark that literally tore the ground apart on impact, and Mark's punches against the Viltrumites on Thraxon would kill any of the villains on the Sinister Six, so Electro gets KO'd in one punch. Now as for Vulture, well, it goes pretty much the same as it did for Electro, only quicker, since Vulture is literally worse in every way. He's not nearly as fast, nor anywhere near as powerful as Electro, which leads us to Scorpion, who would be easily taken out and wouldn't even be able to so much as scratch Mark with his poison tipped tail, because Mark would just grab it and slam Scorpion down through the roof of the raft and might accidentally kill Scorpion, And even if Scorpion did catch Mark off guard, his skin is so tough that I literally wouldn't even be able to pierce Mark's skin. And so that leaves the last two, being Rhino and Lee. But honestly here I'm just going to cover Rhino, as I just did Lee, and we already established he couldn't do anything there, so he's not going to be able to do anything here. And Rhino honestly might just get punched down through the roof and go right on out into the ocean and get knocked out in one solid punch from Mark here, if not getting killed in the process. But we have to abide by Mark's no kill rule here, despite his shaky standing on that. But regardless, Mark clears them all at once, meaning that they don't attack New York or even leave the raft. So let's go ahead and move on. The final main boss, Doc Ock, is next up on the list, and this can go one of two ways here, as Doc Ock could have somehow released the Devil's Breath still, or he could have not released it yet. And let's just go ahead and cover both of these for the purposes of the video. And honestly, from the evidence that it seemed in the first game that Otto had to have acquired the Devil's Breath by himself in the main game. And so, realistically, he probably still could have released it in this scenario, but like I said, we're going to cover both. So, let's cover the instance that he does release it. Now, this would infect Debbie, and now that she's dying, Mark is straight up just pissed off. And he would be ready to kill Otto. And unfortunately, Otto is going to die in literally seconds at this point. Otto is nowhere near as strong as Angstrom Levy here, who had his body modified to even be able to put up somewhat of a fight against Mark. And we all know that when Mark's family is in danger, he quits holding back. So Otto's literally going to get turned into a pink mist. But let's say he didn't. Well, then Otto still isn't going to have a chance here. I'm not even going to try and bait that. No. Because Mark has defeated the Flaxons, who have technology that way surpasses anything that Otto could even dream of. So, literally, Otto's not getting near Mark whatsoever. He's just completely out of his depth here with Mark. And in seconds, Otto would be taken out, meaning that Invincible would get the antidote, but he wouldn't have time to save his mother, instead having to choose to save the city, and that would really destroy him. But let me know down in the comments section below, does Otto release it or does he not? And just so you know, the video's not ending here, as we still got side missions and a DLC boss fight to cover. First up, we have Tombstone, who is actually probably someone that Mark could reason with, more than likely, but first he has to beat him down, which is incredibly easy for Mark, and after beating Tombstone, he could send him down a better path, but how does the next opponent stack up? Taskmaster is up, and he's going down incredibly fast. Nothing he has can help him against Mark, who just embarrasses Taskmaster, who would just stand there as Taskmaster breaks all his weapons on Mark, and leading to Mark just slapping Taskmaster unconscious with a powerful backhand. Taskmaster's just a human, man. He just mimics people's movements, and in the Spider-Man game, he hasn't shown anything remotely as having anywhere near as good of equipment that any of Mark's villains have had. So Taskmaster is pretty much a jobber here, just like a basic street punk. Our final opponent for this video is Hammerhead, who is now equipped with a mech armor, but unfortunately this is not anywhere near enough to take out Mark, since Mark has taken out several Flaxons, like I mentioned previously, whose tech is worlds beyond anything that Hammerhead has equipped, or that Earth has in this game. And from what Spider-Man said, Hammerhead's head is only as strong as steel, which means it's going to be easily caved in by Invincible with one good punch. So Hammerhead is going to get knocked out regardless. He's got nothing that can even remotely hurt Mark, as the Flaxons have managed to make devices that stop the movement of time for them in a dimension whose time moves way faster. So yeah, this is just a steamroll. So in conclusion, Mark destroys everyone in the Marvel Spider-Man video game by a landslide. It's not even a close competition. And so in the next part, I'm going to just go ahead and cover Mark taking on the events of Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2. And after that, Mark will challenge the Injustice series. But let me know down below, what other heroes do you want to see? And are you interested in if Spawn could survive the Arkham Justice League? Or do you want to see Thomas Wayne Batman challenge the Arkham series? Let me know everything down in the comment section below. And next week, we'll finally be doing The Last Ronin in Arkham Origins. So remember, God is awesome, you guys are too, and I wish that you guys have a great and blessed day.